camera and let's use this wonderful case study to deepen your understanding of the principles. Good, good, Evan.
Thank you, Ben. Okay, so let's open up for questions. So what I'll do is I'll give you just a chance to think of a few questions. Before we do that, I might go to Maribel, one of our faculty, just to give her a quick insight on the conversation that we heard. So Maribel, I'd love to hear from you. And for those of you in the audience, please think of some questions now. So I'll give you a minute or so. Maribel?
Yeah, thank you, Evan. Yeah, what stood out was definitely what we teach around in CMA, that we don't coach around the situation, but we coach about how the client is relating to the experience. So, so for the students, we have a lot of new students who are here. So we just had that learning. So that's something that is, I think, was presented by our coach today. Thank you, Evan.
Thank you, Maribel. A wise reminder of what we're about and what we're focusing on. Okay, I'd love to open up the room now to some questions. I can see a lot of curious faces in the room, a few smiles, ready to ask a few questions. So who wants to kick us off?
Let me just make a confession. It's just too early for me to start off the day with a coaching conversation. This is 8 o'clock in Singapore time, so I'm not sure is that the best time to. But nevertheless, thank Rachel a lot for such a wonderful conversation. I really, really appreciate it. Great.
Thanks.
Any interesting question for me or for Evan and for Maribel? Love to hear some of yeah. Don't worry about the questions. Questions is it's just door that opens up to an understanding, right? Okay. Go for it.
We got Janet first. Janet, you want to go? Yeah.
I was very, very moved in watching this, and want to thank both the client and the coach. And I'd like to share something. One of the reasons I was moved is I am visually impaired, and so I'm exploring what it's now like to be able to observe using Zoom. And so because I can magnify people's faces, I'm seeing people's faces, seeing their eyes, seeing, you know, for the first time for many, many years. And two things I'd like to observe. I saw how I observed that when Ben asks sometimes when Ben asks questions, he closes his eyes or he lowers his lids, and it's almost an honoring gesture. It seems like he's honoring the client. But what's interesting is that the client, in this instance, she has her eyes looking away so much, but then comes back almost to check back in at the end of each sentence. And so that's makes me realize that actually seeing, you know, we're not, clients and coaches are not always looking at each other, is an obvious thing. But the other thing I'd like to observe, in case it's helpful to the client, is the almost cognitive dissonance that I felt when occasionally I closed my eyes just to listen to her, and then when I opened my eyes, her face was doing something different. And one case in point was fascinating when I was looking at her face, and Ben said, and how are you feeling about this? How does it make you feel? And I thought her face said, oh, that she was really having a difficult time, or like it was really a challenge. And then she said, fantastic. And I thought it just goes to show you can't trust people's body language all the time. So anyway, that's a long share, but it was very moving for me. And I just want to say thanks.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks so much, Janet, for that wonderful insight. And just for you to be able to observe from that angle is definitely appreciative, and just shows again the coaching, we're listening, we're observing. There's so many of much happening that we can take note of, and for you to be able to offer that perspective, we really appreciate it. And thanks for jumping on the call and offering that. So I love the little nuances that we can observe, and I personally didn't see that. So well done offering that. So thank you so much, Janet. Awesome. Okay, Danush, go for it.
All right, thanks, Evan. Well, look, thank you both Ben and Rachel for the learning opportunity. Quite incredible to watch. I suppose, Ben, as coach, I guess my question is, that point where you got the clients to refer to the doors, right? And it felt like she came to a point of realization and said she wanted to close that door. I actually lost track of what the doors actually meant, but you went back and questioned it, right? Are you sure that that's the door you want to close? Could you just talk us through that and just explain, some of the things you observed or what made you just double check that?
Well, thank you, Dinesh. I think I would like to speak as a layperson in plain language, that I had to appreciate the value of that. Number one is don't take everything the client said as a face value. That's one thing for sure. And there's certainly some science around it. And what the science is suggesting is that when awareness first arises, it is not as complete as it should be, right? Some is just like a passing by, breeze. It has to, you have to catch it and then just enjoy it and then let it go. That's the wisdom that I've learned, over many years, of what to chase after and what not to chase after. And to speak in a very layman term, coaching is a very intimate conversation, especially deep coaching, right? You are literally stepping into someone's personal life and private life, right? Even though you are invited, but certainly you want to enter into that private room with respect and understand that it's meant to be private room means get out of it. Once you have kind of like, being invited. I think that's the natural gesture of respecting another human being, learning to know that I'm just a guest being invited into this private room. Right. Just happened that I'm watching a series called The Crown. So kind of like Mother Teresa not Mother Teresa, the Queen Elizabeth, sorry, has own private room in which they as a family retreat in, and even if guests are invited, they eventually will not be allowed to stay there. You know what I mean? So I think in the same breath, that's what we need to respect. When awareness arises, we need to take that moment to reflect around the awareness. But in this case, it's not so much of reflecting on the awareness, but is to bring some kind of give that awareness a little bit more of some concrete form to talk about it. If not, otherwise, it's just a passing thought that may not kind of like, it's just a passing thought. It will be a waste. You know what I mean? So, and also we also, I also need to make sure that I don't get too much into it, right? Because what you say becomes real, or what you give attention to will be amplified, sorry. Right. So if this is a passing awareness, and so you just have to make sure that, you give some concrete form and then let it go. All right. And here, I use the approach of kind of like lightness and joy, not playfulness, not joy, but a little of playfulness. Are you sure about that? Okay, kind of like, rather than to make it like, what is real here? What is true here? Then it kind of like, it's kind of spoil the show. Yeah, I mean, there's no fun around that. So here it teach us that coaching by and large is an art form, not as a craft, but as an art form of human and humans negotiation. Right? It's a matter of helping people to change their position, right? Good. So here, it's art form of playing the conversation to a way that give respect and dignity to our client. Are you sure about that? Are you sure already? Can I trust you on that? Okay. So now I'm not saying that this is what you need to do as a coach, but you kind of like use whatever that is comfortable to you as an individual to have a little bit more of not say fun conversation, but a little bit more lighter note around it. Okay, is that making sense? So there is no right or wrong here, but it allows the coaching conversation to have your DNA, right? Can you imagine 70,000 professional coaches across the group? Each of them sounds the same. I'm not sure is that what I want. If that is the case, let's just design an AI to do the job. Then everybody will have a personal AI coach. Wouldn't that be more useful? Because it's kind of being programmed, right? If clients say this, ask this. If clients say this, get this. It's like a matrix that we can actually create and then let the machine learns over time, just like what online chat is trying to do right now. You understand what I mean? We do have the technology for this kind of response, right? But it's not really conversations. See the point here? So back to your question about the door. So number one, I'm able to recognize that that is a good awareness, but the awareness is not solidified yet. And it also requires us to be very attentive to understand that there's actually two doors, right? So that is number two. And then you also need to understand that when someone make a statement, there's a lot to expand on depending on the symbol behind whatever that the person is offering, right? So we have the key, we have the door, we have open, and we have close, right? So obviously, closing and opening doesn't need to be expanded. If you want, then it will be just too much, in the conversation. So I think as I took the risk, I decided to focus more on the door, the symbol of the door. Okay, because that's where the intention needs to be directed to, right? The intention to what about this subject matter? Okay, which is basically to close it. What door is that? What's the subject matter behind this door? Right. Then as we look at the other door, symbolically, the client has already offered a great insight. Oh, sunshine. And then you don't have to chase after that, because I think that's where you can just leave the clients to have their own fun with their own exploration of that newness over there. So there are kind of rules. When you chase after it too much, you actually lose the fun of it. So it kind of like give that little space for the client to enjoy that mystery of the door. But then what is important is to reflect on the entire process, which is unique in today's conversations. Okay, it's not on reflecting on the incident itself, but reflect on the entire process. What this episode is teaching you, what life is offering you, what sort of wisdom is available. So it's not reflecting on the situation itself, but reflecting on this as an episode in life. So there's a kind of a little bit of nuances here in the invitation for discovery. Okay, so I hope that's something that you're able to caught on. Okay, now there is no right or wrong whether we should be reflecting on um, the situation or what has this conversation, what have we learned from this conversation versus reflecting on what this incident is teaching me. It's up to individual to decide what might be most appropriate. Cool. But as you advance in your understanding, you can see that the invitation to discovery will then take on a deeper layer. You know, like for example, students at the third level, they are supposed to support their clients to reflect on their reflection. That means the ICF says that as formulating their own learning, not so much on learning as to what the conversation is teaching, but learning around the awareness that the clients gained from exploring this situation in this conversation and to reflect that learning, right? So it has to be progressive, you know, as we continue to, you know, sharpen our understanding. But you can see all this falls under checkpoint number 4, right? Invitations to discovery. Yeah, okay. Is that helping you, Dinush, Shah?
Yeah, very much. Thank you. I appreciate that.
you.
Great. Thank you for a great question. I might add just 2 things to that. So a great reminder as a course student and your training that the 4th checkpoint is vital, and it's important to use the questions that we ask. What has been most useful? What are you learning? Because it allows the client to sit in that awareness, not just allowing the awareness to just come and quickly go. We want to nurture that awareness that comes through. I notice a lot of new students quickly bypass this and get straight to actions, which is, you know, it sounds exciting, but now you're seeing the importance of sitting in that awareness and allowing the client to discover that insight. And those who are at the advanced level, you notice the simplicity in the use of the keys and the doors. I find a lot of students wanting to create this extravagant metaphor, and then they want to do all the work for the client, make it as complex in the metaphor as possible, when sometimes this simplicity can be, pardon the pun here, the key for us to open the door to the client. So just wanted to remind that to everyone in those levels. So thank you for that great question, Janush. Moni, go for it.
Yeah, my question is sort of about an observation. So I see that the coach did a really dig deeper in the layers of what this is about for the client, in terms of like starting from the situation, going down all the way to that it's about being respected and heard. And I observed that when it comes about uncovering the focus about being respected, the client went into a block. And it was really hard for the client to just like really get through the block. And even though I saw that the coach, Ben, tried to expand the mind on that, but like it was just like not expanding. So it was like a good observation that was the part like, okay, then let's just let go of that focus, but find something that is easier to expand on, which is being heard. So I saw that then the client started to shift and start to talk so much more about what is really going on. Am I right observing that was what was happening in that moment?
Molly, I must just say that I have such good respect for such good respect for you, your discernment and your maturity in looking at things in this manner was amazing. And I would just say, yes, you are. And
Thank
Evan,
you.
would you like to give some thought first before Molly poses her questions? Because I love to get your input around this.
Yeah, I could have said it better myself, Moni. Yeah, look, honestly, I missed the last little bit of it, so I can't give you the full comments. I might go to you, Ben. So I missed a little bit of what Moni said at the end, but I'd love for you to jump in. Sorry.
Thank you, thank you. Maribel, feel free to jump in here. So, Molly, is there any specific inquiry around the observation that you have made, which is so accurate and sharp?
Sorry, are you asking me?
Yes, Molly, right? It's Moni.
Moni.
Moni,
Yeah.
yes. So, do you have any specific inquiry around that observation that you just make, or any curiosity around it?
It's about like when was the moment when you realize that you really need to drop this focus and then move on to another one? I mean, the client itself mentioned 2 focus, which is about being respected and being heard. And what kind of things that you observed in the client, but just, I mean, I could hear that the client struggled to answer and said like, I don't know. And in the learning, in our learning lab, we also learn like, okay, maybe if the client says, I don't know, maybe we can explore more like, okay, what you really don't know. But in this case, the client really didn't know, like had the blank. and what made you decide on, okay, let's just not focus on this, but like focus on another aspect, which is being heard,
Yeah, thanks.
which is,
As
yeah.
usual, I'm not going to give you a very concrete answer as in yes and no. I'd like to offer wisdoms or principles, which then for allows you to be a little bit more fluid around creating. Yeah? So two things that I can say. Number one, you are the expert in the process. Okay, so that's fundamental. The question is, what does that mean when you say that you are the expert in the process? So back in the core training, we have taught everybody what to make observations, right? So by now, everybody are very good already. Oh, this is a concern. This is the expression of goals. This is a challenge. So you're pretty excited right now with what you are capable of observing. So that goes to what is it that you are paying attention to. The next layer or the next level of growth or the next mastery that you need to move on. Now, that's something that you need to learn about skill set. You have to practice it at a higher level in order to see growth. Make sense? I think that's a lot. This is something that most students don't understand because they wanted to feel comfortable in what they are learning first before they decided to go to the next level. Neither right or wrong, but you need to understand that what we are learning is not knowledge. What we are learning is skill set. Now, think about any typical sportsman. You can ask Evan to verify that he's a national player, and he can confirm that in any sport breakthrough, you cannot play at the level that you you are comfortable with. Okay, you will be doomed, right? Because you're only reinforcing your ceiling. And when you practice at the level that you are comfortable with, the path of least resistance is very real. That is another piece of science, right? You will be imprinted to that level. Make sense? When you're imprint, what's the impact? How many of you struggle at the core level, especially when you started learning the transformation approach? It's an absolute challenge and attack to your existing thinking system. Right? That's exactly what happens if you keep on practicing at the same level. You will be imprinted at this level. And when a new mastery comes in or a new level of mastery is knocking at your door, you will be experiencing the exact attack that you're experiencing at the core level. Does that make sense? Great. So for mastery to happen, there must be a constant challenge to you feeling comfortable. Okay, not irritation. Okay, that's two different things. Being irritated is different from feeling uncomfortable about you grabbing something. Do you understand the difference between the two? Great. So the point here is that we need to constantly challenge ourselves, especially at the formative stage of time, recognizing this is a skill set. It is not like, studying in education where we kind of like, get some knowledge in and pass the exam and be happy with it, right? So that's where you are being challenged to the next level based on what you are able to observe. Okay, so the second level would be you making sense of what you are observing. Does that make sense right now? Great. So I'm observing that the client's response is, I don't know what that is. That's the raw content. Then now you have to now make sense of it. What do I mean by make sense? Here you have to understand, is this a no because of refusal, or it's just no because I don't know, right? So there is a healthy no and an unhealthy no. Make sense? So this is where you have to depend on experience to validate the science. The science says that there are healthy no and unhealthy no. How do you differentiate between the two? That's where I cannot teach you by textbook. Okay. How does salt water taste like? Salty. Great. How does salty taste like? Like salt water. Do you understand what I'm trying to say? Until I bring you to the seaside and say, drink it, and then you say, oh, that's called salty water. Do you understand what I mean? So there are something that we literally cannot teach or help you to gain it, in classroom by saying, okay, look, hypothetically, there are two ways to manage I don't know. It's I don't know because I don't know. I say, I know, but I don't want to tell you. Or I don't know because I really don't know. Maybe there is something there, but I don't know. Do you see what I mean? Hypothetically, in classroom, we understand the scenario. But how to really recognize the scenario, and that's where we come to such a session like this, and then say, hey, do you notice at that moment that when the client literally say, I don't know what's that, maybe there's something there, but I don't know, it just disappeared. Now you have to ask yourself, what if you press on and examine it more closely together with the client? What will happen to the conversation? What will happen to that moment? Sunk right deep into the cave. Are you able to feel that? It enters into a cave, a very dark cave at that moment. And then the questions right now is, do you think that's the wise thing to do at that moment? And there's no right or wrong, right? There's no right or wrong. It's up to each individual sensitivity and maturity to decide what would be the best way to approach it. So I have to make a decision. Do I want to turn that into a therapeutic, calm coaching process to uncover the darkness there, or just simply to allow the darkness to have a place in the client's life? Does that make sense? So it becomes a philosophical question, instead of a coaching competency, because it depending on what philosophical position that you have at this moment. For me, I'm okay to have shadows, because without shadows, it means there's no sunshine. There's no sun, right? And since there is sun, why do I need to be afraid of shadows? Because the sun will always cast a shadow. The point is, look at the sun and don't look at the shadow, because I don't think there's any value looking at the shadow at this point of time, since the client is able to come to a point of realization of a need. See the difference? So here you have to look at what's the element. I mean, I look at the elements that is on the table. There's awareness, in the moment awareness that occur, which is very precious. The client's ability to articulate respect and being heard. And these two in the element is a need. Do you understand it? NEED, a very powerful felt need. And this felt need comes as a result of an awareness. So I have a bigger player on the table already that I can work on. And then here you have a shadow on the table. So you make the best decisions if you're going to turn that into a game of possibility or probability for a greater success. Do you want to chase after the shadow when the table has an awareness and a need? Which is more powerful to turn around for the clients? So that's what I was trying to say, that, you had to now make sense of what you are able to observe and choose the most effective process according to each individual preference and experience. Does that make sense for everybody? Good. Great. Does that make coaching more difficult? No, on controversial, it's more fun. Right? No, you don't like fun? Oh my God, you're so serious, you guys. Oh my. Don't see coaching so scary. Look like Jenna, she's so alive. Yeah. Okay, every coaching conversation is supposed to be fun. You're talking to a friend. Why are you making it so serious? Like, what do you mean by that? When you say I don't know? What makes it important for you to know about what you don't know? Right? Do you want your client to look at you as, wow, so serious? I don't know. I don't know. Every conversation is a reflection of who the person is, including you as a coach. No? I don't know. How do people know you? Yeah, how do people get to know you from your interactions? Do you want people to know you? I don't know, maybe some of you are like the lawyer family. You're supposed to be elusive and private and secret and, hidden from the rest of the world. I don't know. Okay, good, great, great. Is that helping you, Moni? Thank you so very much. Good. So we're coming up to the our time here. Just maybe we just run around the room here and just see each of us just offering one thing that you are taking away. Would that be a good way to close the session? Good. Okay, so let's start with Evan. Would you like to do us a favor to quickly just run down the rooms to just get everybody to share one thing that they are walking
Sure,
away?
absolutely. Great. I'd love to start with Fumiko. We'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you can take away from today?
Yes, yes. Thank you, Ben and Rachel. Today's great demonstration. What really stood out for me is also the principle invitation discovery. That's really stood out. And what Ben just explored, I was also kind of encountered when clients said, I don't know, or their mind block off. But today's, I'm really, what Ben has just said was really made sense to me. And then this is also, coach also maybe can take this opportunity to explore further, and then also make holding a space for the client, and then inviting some new discovery. So that's really great learning for me today, and that's really appreciated. Thank
Let me
you.
just close the learning to make sure we all learn it completely, because it's such a case study, we only learn partial of it. So usually the easiest part that you remember, the hardest part you actually don't get to register. The hardest part here is to be first to acknowledge that there is a piece that the client is struggling. Okay, that is very important, that you need to identify that and put it onto the table and recognize that as a challenge for the client. So there is a mutual agreement that there is something here and it's just not able to process further. Okay, just like any good manager, if things that we do not know, what do? Sweep it under the carpet and pretend that it does not exist. That's the easiest way to do it, right? No, we have to have the bonus to acknowledge that first and put it onto the table. Okay, this is the issue, this is the situation. It seems that we have no way out at this point of time, but let's register it. And then there is a verbal agreement. And then we can then kind of like now put that aside first and then move on with what we are able to answer or what we are able to explore. And as we do that, we just have to trust that that will create enough mental capacity to break through the block and then come back and say, oh yeah, what about that we earlier mentioned? Does that help you to get any further insight around it? See the point here? Or maybe in the next conversation that you have with the clients, you can just check in. Hey, I just remember that we identify a roadblock, and I'm just curious, is there any progress around the block? Is there anything opens up? Eventually, we might be say, oh, it's just nothing. It's just kind of a block because it's just the end of the road. Oh, okay, well done. Or yeah, after all this, I begin to see there's another part of me and blah, blah, blah. And then you can just use that opportunity and say, hey, would you want to have a conversation around that, or you prefer to just kind of let it be? You know what I mean? So this shows a lot of professionalism in how you are carrying out the conversation. Can do? So remember, you must identify, acknowledge, and then invite the client to say, should we look at other issue first and then see how it goes? Cool. Great. Thank you. Hey, Evan, back to you again.
Thank you, Ben. Great question. Great, Kumiko. About you, one of our advanced students, Chow, I'd love to hear from you.
Actually, I have a couple of things that I learned from this session, but the most impressed me is the way that we can challenge the client, not in a serious way. Because in this conversation, definitely the client was challenged a lot about the way that the mind is going through the talking process. But then how we can challenge the client is something really funny to do. It's not serious like in the in the learning that we may have, but it's a nice way and help the client go through it in a very smooth way and have fun with that. Yeah, that is my biggest learning from today.
Beautiful. Thank you. Always a great learning. I'd love to hear maybe from Simone.
Yeah, so thank you for this great coaching session. So this was actually the first coaching session that I listened to, and I'm very new in the core training. So it was very exciting for me to follow the whole process. So what impressed me the most was the fact that, first of all, to really find out the issue and the topic, and then once Rachel said she's blocked at that point, that Ben was able to really still get the right information and the input out of her and to go further. So this is really artful for me actually as a coach to be able to do that. That if a person still feel that she's stuck somewhere, that the coach is still able to bring her further and to get out the right information. So that impressed me a lot. Thank you.
Well done. Fantastic. And welcome to the training. Hope you're enjoying it so far. So thanks, Simone. Is it Deneen? Is it how I pronounce your name? Oh, God.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. I'm also new, like Simone, so that was my first live demonstration. So thank you. It really was quite heartwarming to see the impact that you've made, and I'm really excited. I hope I can do that. But what I really noticed, actually, what stood out to me was in this moment of pause, the power of silence. And I tend to be quite extroverted and I want to jump in and say this, that, and the other, but I'm going to have to learn to be patient. But also in that moment of patience, there was this beautiful trust in Rachel that she could find the answer. And even when you challenged her in a playful way, it was still coming from a genuine trust that she's got this, she's going to get there. And I really loved that. It was really a beautiful display. Thank you. Yeah.
Beautifully said. And for you to pick that out so early in your coaching journey is wonderful. So thank you, and welcome to the course as well. Awesome. Always love to hear from Angela. Angela, what's your perspective on from today?
Well, thank you. It was a really, really good coaching conversation, and I learned a lot. So thank you. This has been said before, but I really appreciate the artful demonstration of coaching. I liked how the coach was persistent. He didn't push for a specific answer, but he was persistent and gentle. And that's something I'm taking away. You can challenge your client without being pushy. So I really appreciated that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. The word gentle doesn't seem to associate quite closely with who Ben is as a person. But anyway, you get to know Ben. It's not as gentle as it sounds like. But whatever that is, it takes, if you love someone, what will you do? You do what the person needs. Agreed? Not what you prefer. That's called selfish. Those who are married, got any wisdom? Any wisdom? Yeah, not doing gradually. Oh, I have to be patient. Okay, let's be patient. Okay, I'm not patient. Okay, by the way, or not gentle in any way, loud and aggressive and pushy and get it done. Okay, but if I truly love the person, so no, it just have to be. Yes, dear, I will try to do that. Okay, so love conquer all, and I think that's the beauty of it, that out of the response of love for the work that you're doing, you are prepared to do all that it takes to be able to meet the need of that person at that level, right? And that's really, it's love. And I want to encourage all of you, let the love of the work that you are doing challenge you to take you to the next height of who you are as a person. Very few vocations, in life, or a true vocation needs to help you to be transformed to the personhood that this role is calling you. Like those who are teacher, be an educator, right? Those who are engineer, be an architecture of infrastructures to brings meaning to what buildings is doing, right? Be a doctor, more than just helping people to to cure sickness. Be life giver. You see what I mean, right? So may the love of what you are doing, in this fear of advancing human potential, enlarge your lungs. Yay! Lungs are very important. You want to go marathon, okay. You want to go for a long haul. I'm not sure. There's some of you just go for a cheetah, that means 100-meter dash, and then after that. Okay, I choose to be going for a long way. So the way to stay alive is to build strong lungs. Okay, so more oxygen, more endurance, and finish out the race beautifully. In all your quests, do not be satisfied with comfortable. Ready to be sportsman? I'm not sure. Some of you like, sportsman, let me just buy my sports shoe. Good. So in CMA, we got a lot of fun, lot of love, but don't forget there's lots of stress too. Okay, no stress, no hero. Okay, no stress, no sportsman, no outstanding sportsman. Can do, but don't worry, you will be handled with a lot of love and care. Right? Look at Evan, look at Maribel. Okay, convinced? You will be in a safe hands, but yet don't expect us to be. Okay, because we really demand the best out of you. Why? Every conversation matters. Trust me, every conversation matters. A breakthrough in one conversation like this means a lot to our clients because it opens up the entire systems for the person to re-experience something. Exciting? Good. So I think, is that a good time for us to say goodbye? Good. So I will keep on doing the morning session, and I think Evans will also continue to do so. And we have Maribel very soon joining us to be one of those. Yay! Okay, and we're going to open up 7 a.m., not 8 a.m. now. Okay, just I need to get used to the morning coaching session first. It's really challenging. Okay, to put. Okay, but nevertheless, we are committed to open at 7 a.m. Singapore time, which is 7 p.m. New York. So friends in America, try to grab your classmate around and say, hey, you missed out, what a wonderful learning session. And friends in New Zealand, or invite your friend, hey, just pop in Australia. Cool. Great. So Evan, any last word? Maribel, any last word for our friends?
One thing that served me in my sporting career from every single coach said to me, be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And that's the philosophy I take as a coach as well in our learning journey.
So both me and Evan are sportsmen, so we bring that into the training space of bringing out the best coach. Okay, don't cry, suck it up, go for it. But after the training, we'll come beside you. Oh, don't worry, you'll be fine. Maribel, any last word for our friends?
Oh yeah, especially for the new students who are here, I just want to encourage you. Dr. Ben said something about that going for the long haul.
Yeah.
You know what you've seen today. Just go for the long haul all the way. Advanced training, the mastery, go for it. So that's it.
Oh, join us more often for live coaching sessions. Okay, there's lots
Yeah,
to learn.
right.
And lots of goodie stuff to pick it up. So with that, take care, everybody. We'll see you again. Bye. So thank you.
Thanks.
Great.